Yo, yo, T-Woo, Travis Wizard here, bringing you my favorite standard deck in years. Maybe since Fogdoor or Green Summer. For me, the more complex, the better. I play Magic primarily for education, for learning, for spreading education, because I think that it's a fantastic way to learn. It's a really fun way to learn complex thinking processes. So I tend to be attracted towards modern because it's more affordable than Legacy, has lots of players, has lots of brews, and tends to be the most complex format. But right now, Standard is very complex, and I have a deck that is, yeah, just as far as Standard goes, there's so many decisions, there's so many tactics. It's just, I can't stop playing with this deck. And I made some videos on it previously, but I wanted to make another video kind of showcasing and talking about some of the strengths and weaknesses, some of the decision points in building, some of the pros and cons, what makes this deck tick, and why it is worth your time and entertainment for education. And if you play standard and play standard tournaments, why it's could be a good decision for tournaments and how I would recommend tweaking it for metagames. So, start off what this deck is. Tempo Temurskai is what I've been calling it, standard Delver, standard Honored Hierarch. It's really an aggro, control, tempo, card draw, with alternate combo finish, and it's meant to be really flexible and really difficult to play against. So, for instance, if we have mana up, it could be a burn spell, Fiery Impulse or Wild Slash. It could be a bounce spell. It could be a counter spell of multiple kinds. It could be a pump spell, a removal spell. It could be a bounce and a counter. Bounce and burn. Or it could be a creature. This deck's just so difficult to play against. It's maybe not as powerful as a deck like Fairies with its Cryptic Command Mistbind Click. Or maybe it's not as powerful as Delver with its Restoration Angel. But it puts the opponent in the same difficult situations and also allows us to make our decision after the opponent most of the time, which is very useful. Also, the deck has a much lower curve than most standard decks. There's the ramp decks. There's a lot of decks that play Siege Rhinos or Thunderbreak Regent or Bring Delights or whatever. This deck, almost everything costs less than 3. We've got all kinds of things at 1. Honored Hierarch. I'm a big fan of this card. We have 6 burn spells. We have Clutch of Currents and Disperse to force it through. It can happen just on its own. We have 9 1-drop mana sources and 14 to play it on the second turn. Or it puts the opponent in a position where they're holding multiple creatures back to avoid bounce and burn. So, it, again, is another one of those cards that puts them in a difficult position. Rattleclaw Mystic, I like it. I don't like that it dies to 1 mana removal spells as a 2 mana spell. Don't mind trading Honored Hierarch for 1 mana removal spells, because not only are we a aggro deck, but we make a pretty good control deck, because we have 6 Delve card draw spells, which is more than almost anyone else plays. So the more we trade, the better. We can win really long games, especially against Abzan or Mardu. We also have Lumbering Falls as a hexproof threat in the late game. But our primary threat for this build is Mantis Riders. It's so fast, it is hasty, it is vigilant, it's a good blocker. And also we have Savage Knuckleblade and Bounding Krasis. Bounding Krasis, just being difficult to play against, also a good body. Taps their creature, untaps our creature. And then I have 1 Jeskai Ascendancy in the main, which pumps our team, fuels our Delve card draw, and also can act as a combo, pumping all of our creatures. So if we have an Honored Hierarch or Rattleclaw Mystic, we can tap it for mana, play a Dig Through Time, and it untaps our creatures again, grab some more card draw, etc., etc. I'm playing just Tormenting Voice and Anticipate. I like these because both give us a good amount of selection. Say if we draw an Honored Hierarch in the mid game and it's not very good, we can pitch it Tormenting Voice, or we can anticipate and look at 3 cards. So that is for the most part the main. I'm playing 12 fetch lands, the maximum, because they all fetch at least 3 colors, if not 4 colors, and they fuel our delve. The hardest part of playing this deck is knowing what lands to get, because the basic forest doesn't tap for Mantis Riders or Jeskai Ascendancy, and the basic plains doesn't tap for Savage Knuckleblade, and it's important to try to fetch 2 basics first so that our fetch lands can get untapped Prairie Streams, Cinderglades, and Canopy Vistas, and so on. So this is a deck where between Dig Through Time and Anticipate, it really rewards us for having a lot of situational one-ofs that we can search for and find. And I have most of the good ones. However, there's a few that you could consider depending on metagame that I just don't have room for in this deck. One of them is Jeskai Charm. Can put a creature on top of their deck. It's another way to deal with Hangerback Walker. Goes to the face and gives our creatures lifelink, which is very important. So that's a good one. Another option is Ojutai's Command. It's another life gain spell, which is useful. Draw, all around super flexible, and can return Rattleclaw or Honored Hierarch at instant speed. It comes down to preference and metagame, and keeping the opponent guessing. You could, if you wanted, you could shave certain cheaper spells for more of these, but I feel like the leaner the deck, the better in general. But as you recall, this is the type of deck that I really encourage tweaking as much as possible. Now taking a look at the sideboard and talking about a few specific matchups. First of all, I like to have access to the alternate win condition. Jeskai Ascendancy, Rattleclaw, Mystic. So the way that works is if we have 4 Jeskai Ascendancies, we have 4 Honored Hierarch, 3 Rattleclaw Mystics. We have a good, and a Noyandar, we've got a good chance of setting up Jeskai Ascendancy combo, chaining card draw into card draw, and making giant threats and attacking for the win. There's certain matchups where we want both to keep the opponent on their heels, or we want just one because it can be especially difficult to get through in the air or the ground or something like that. Another important card I really like is Radiant Flames. Radiant Flames for 3 mana can do 3 damage to all the opponent's creatures and our creatures. It's just a surprise, especially from our deck that can be vulnerable to it. Sweeps the board. Good against mono red, good against white creature decks. Just a good card to have. A few extra threats. Encircling Fissures is a surprising one. Prevents all combat damage. Worth noting in the metagame, Disperse. Disperse and Encircling Fissures go together. Stopping Become Immense, stopping Atarka's Command, stopping Nantuko Husk. Definitely prefer Disperse in the main deck, but Encircling Fissures has this Awaken ability which can also make a creature land. Along with Clutch of Currents, we only have 10 real creatures in the deck, but it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which makes a fourth of our deck, and then another big chunk of our deck's life as a card draw. More counterspells. I like to go with 3 negates, 3 disdainful strokes. I find it to be the best against the ramp decks. Dispel is not really very useful there. Negate is more flexible, it counters the sorcery and artifact. Excuse me for the glitches. And then finally I have Exert Influence, which for 5 mana can gain control of a Siege Rhino or a Tassiger or a Managorger Hydra or something like that. So I feel that this deck is best against ramp strategies because ramp strategies tend to be slow, and we can slide under, get our threat base, and bounce and counter them. And it is, I found to be at its weakest against Hardened Scales, and there's a match of that in here to show you. If that's important for you to beat, I think more Exert Influences and some Planar Outburst to sweep is a good call. Against Mono Red, we've got plenty of burn, bounce to deal with the early threats, and sweepers to stabilize, and we have a small amount of life gain. Actually, I don't have any life gain in this version. You can also run Jotty Offshoot in the sideboard, but just burning and removing their creatures works fine. And then the more intricate matches are stuff like Dark Jeskai and Mardu, and I've got a few matches of that in here for you. So 3 matches coming up: Dark Jeskai, Mardu, Hardened Scales, and I'll see you in those if you find this super useful. are enjoyable, entertaining, check out my Patreon below. You can support. Otherwise, your silent support is much appreciated. And I'll see you in the comments and see you in the next match. Let's get to it.